Okay, it's all good now in the group. So thanks everyone who joins in tonight. I want to welcome back Nicola Moriarty. She's been in our group before and done a Facebook Live before, so thanks for coming back again.
Thank
Um,
you.
the Probably the main reason I asked you to come back is because of your new book, You Need to Know.
Hold up matching.
So, and I just finished reading it this morning and really, really enjoyed it. I'd say probably my favourite, all of yours,
Oh, good.
and a 5 out of 5 from me. It was really, really great.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm really happy to hear that.
So, yeah, thanks for joining us. For people who don't know Nicola, Nicola lives in Sydney's northwest with her husband and 2 children. She's the younger sister of best-selling authors Leanne and Jacqueline Moriarty, and in between various career changes, becoming a mum and studying at Macquarie University, she began to write. Now she can't seem to stop. And You Need to Know was out earlier this month, I think. Is that right?
Yes, yeah, yeah. 2 weeks out. Yeah.
Yeah. Would you like to tell us a little bit about You Need to Know?
Yeah, sure. So, I always have trouble doing spiels for my own book. I get a last minute panic and go, wait, what did I write about again? But it opens on Christmas Eve on a with a terrible car accident on the freeway with a whole extended family who've been driving in convoy to go away for Christmas. And then it works back in time to a month before to look at this family and what's going on in their lives and what might have happened to cause the accident. And you get to know the different people in the family. And and get little hints about who might have caused this accident. So you've got somebody who's drinking maybe a bit more than they should be, and a matriarch of the family, the grandmother, who's got this secret from her past. You've got the aunt or sister-in-law who's getting involved in their neighbour's life, maybe a bit too much. Yeah, so all sorts of, and a 16-year-old daughter who's, just learning to drive, but also seems to be, has something going on in her life that's, making her become quite withdrawn. And so all these things going on, and any one of them could have caused the accident, and you don't know who caused it, you don't know who survived. So we work our way back to the accident again.
And I really like that swapping between the times and that was, I really enjoyed that in the book.
Thank you.
And and there's I have to say, there's some really big twists in it that I certainly didn't see happening.
Excellent. That's what I like to hear.
Surprises, yeah. And one thing I found interesting was there's 3 brothers in the story, and the 3 brothers are writers.
Mm-hmm.
So
Surprise, surprise. Yes, yeah. I was kind of thinking about, what careers that my characters would have at the start of, when you first start on a new book idea. And I kind of thought, well, it'd be nice to put a writer in there because you get to write what you know. And then it just suddenly occurred to me, what if there were 3 brothers who were writers? And I kind of was doing it as a bit of to have a bit of fun with that parallel between myself and my sisters, and, a bit of a tongue-in-cheek joke about that.
yeah.
But I thought that it would give me the opportunity to, include lots of stories about myself and my sisters, but they very quickly became their own people and very different to the 3 of us, and with their own different issues and different careers. So they ended up being very different from Leanne, Jackie and I.
Yeah. And could you tell us, like, when you started to write that book, what was the very first thing you thought of when you started?
The accident was the main thing. I don't know why I had this idea in my head, but I had this idea in my head of what it would be like if you came across an accident and suddenly realized, oh my God, I know that car. That's, member of my family was driving that car, and
Mm.
then looking around and going, I know that car, I know that car, and what it would be like if you came across an accident and realized that you knew everybody involved. And so that kind of sparked the initial idea. And for some reason, I kept thinking about my kids' children's book that I used to read to them when they were little, Who Sank the Boat by Pamela Allen, which is why now there's a quote in the front of the book from Who Sank the Boat. The lines from that book, while I was thinking about writing this, kept running through my head. Who sank the boat? And I kept thinking, who caused the accident?
Mm.
It just kind of played on my mind. So it felt right to have a quote from that book in the start of this book. But
Yeah.
when I started, I didn't know who caused the accident. I didn't
Okay.
know who survived. I didn't know anything about the family. I just had this little snippet of an idea of what would you do if you came across an accident and you knew
Mm.
everybody there.
Mm. And do you plan before you start, or do you just it just happens as you go along?
Yeah, no, I find planning doesn't suit me. I work better if I just
Mm.
go, because if I try to plan, I don't know, I think maybe it stifles me a bit or something, or I seem to get more stuck. Whereas if I just start writing, then ideas pop up as I'm going. Maybe halfway through is when I would then have to start to think ahead, because there's a stage where it's kind of, well, how am I going to pull all this together? So maybe about
Mm.
halfway through, I'll
Yeah.
probably start doing a bit of planning. But at the beginning, I find it's better to just go and see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
We've got quite a few people watching, so
Oh, good.
if anyone's got any questions, please type them
Hello,
in
everybody.
comments. A lot of people are saying it's lovely to see you back again.
Thank you. It's lovely to be back again. Sorry for my last minute panic. My post on there going, wait, where do I click again? I did not follow instructions. I'm very sorry.
It's so good. And could you tell us how much research you do for your book?
Yeah, in this case, to start with, it's just a lot of, Google is my friend,
Mm.
looking up bits and pieces here and there. But because there was this major car accident, I had a really good chat with a senior paramedic who's a friend, who I kind of was able to describe to her, this is a situation, this is kind of what I want to have happen. Does this work? Is it realistic? What's going to happen when the paramedics turn up? Who do they go to first? And there was a lot that I was surprised about when she told me about how it works.
Mm.
For instance, I said to her, okay, so obviously, if I've got somebody who, somebody's working on somebody trying to do CPR, I said, if you turned up to a car accident and you saw that, that's, you go straight to that person. And she said, no, not necessarily. She said, if the number of people in the accident outnumber the number of paramedics, she said, we just have to stop and assess the situation first.
Mm.
Because she said, otherwise, if we go rushing off to the person who we think needs the most care, we could miss somebody else. And she said, and sometimes, she said, it sounds horrible, but sometimes it's actually not right to go to the person who looks the worst off, because
Mm.
you might not be able to save them, but there's somebody else over here who you can save. So she said the main thing we have to do is check, assess the situation, so that when more paramedics turn up, we can then, we're ready to go to brief them,
Mm.
until you have a site supervisor who comes. So it was really enlightening talking to her and finding out how it works. And so I had a big, long chat with her. Then she also read a first draft of the book for me, and
Okay.
let me know anything that needed to be
Mm.
fixed up. And then helpfully, she's also married to a police officer, so I
Oh,
was able
okay.
to get extra details there as well. So
Mm.
that was a big part of the research of this book. The other thing that I needed to research is a spoiler if I go into it, but I'll say there are some dark parts of this book where, when I was researching, was quite confronting to do so. But
Mm.
yeah,
Yeah.
if I go into the details, I'll give it away.
Yeah. Mm.
Mm.
And was there anything when you were writing the book or doing your research that really, really surprised you?
Oh, well, definitely, they're finding out about, the paramedic side of things. I found that quite
Mm,
surprising. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. And again, without going into
yeah.
spoilers as well, spoiler territory, I was surprised for that darker, more confronting part of the book. I was
Mm,
surprised at what I could find on the internet about
mm,
those issues, like at how much people are quite open and honest about their experiences. So I did find that surprising. But I'm speaking in code because I can't say about what issues. Yeah, I don't think I can think of anything else.
yeah. And how did you find writing this? I presume you wrote a lot of it during COVID, maybe compared to other books you've written in different times of your life.
Yeah, I think it was. I expected throughout lockdown and being stuck at home, I thought that I was going to be able to get a lot of writing done, and it ended up
Mm,
being the opposite. I couldn't
mm,
write. I thought, I'm stuck at home, you know, I've got the job. I'm lucky that I have a job that I can keep doing. Very
mm,
fortunate, there are people losing their jobs. So I knew I was very fortunate, but surprisingly, I couldn't seem to work very well. I miss the outside world so much, and I like to do a lot of my writing in cafes and things
mm.
because I
I
like
remember
to.
you told us that last time. Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
like being part of the world.
Mm,
So I think I was a bit slubber with this book actually than previous books because of that. And then it did start to feel strange towards the end, writing while we were in the middle of lockdown and COVID. All of a sudden I felt like my characters shouldn't be going out to dinner and they
mm,
shouldn't be hugging and they shouldn't
mm,
be doing this, but it was too late most of it was written, so I couldn't really go back and change the whole book to be set in a time of COVID. But it suddenly felt very strange to me that they were going out and the world was still normal for them whilst
mm.
it was changing for me.
Yeah.
And then it was a bit of a worry as well, bringing the book out post COVID, kind of thinking, will people be reading this and saying, hang on, how are the characters doing this, doing that? And I kind of half wondered, do I need to put in like an author's note explaining I wrote it before COVID, but it's kind of set now, but COVID isn't in there. But in the end, I thought people will figure it
Yeah.
out. Yeah,
Yeah.
people are smarter than
Exactly.
than I need to worry about. So I stopped stressing and just
Yeah.
let it go. Yeah.
Yeah. Patricia's wondering if you chose the title.
I did, well, sort of. That's originally it was just called The Accident. So
Okay.
all throughout writing it, we were just calling it The Accident, and the publishers and so on. And then it was the UK publishers who sort of right at the end suddenly said, we feel like The Accident is a bit too negative, and so we want to come up with something else. And the funny thing was, they sent me an email with a list of, I think, like 5 or 6 potential titles. I remember looking at them all and going, oh, it doesn't feel right, doesn't feel right, doesn't feel right. And I'm kind of, running it all through my head. And I thought about it for a while. And then maybe an hour or two later, I sent them an email back going, oh, maybe this, maybe this. And then I went, but I've just come up with this idea. What about the title You Need to Know? I think it, fits in with this character and this character, what this character
Mm,
needs to know, and so on. And sent this email off. And then I think the next day I was looking back at, I mean, maybe a reply came through or something. I looked back at the original email and went, that wasn't my idea. That was in their list.
oh,
So
okay.
I thought I'd come up with
You
this great title,
subconsciously,
and then
yeah.
I'd gone back to them and gone, what about this idea that I've come up with? And so I had to send them another email saying, I'm very sorry, I've just realized that I've stolen your idea and pretended it was mine. And I don't know, it must have from their list, it must have kind of been, sitting there at the back of my mind. And then all of a sudden I thought I came up with it and I did not
Mm,
come up with it. So
yeah.
yeah, so and in the end they all agreed that that was the one to go with, and luckily Australia agreed as well, which is good
Yeah.
because you don't want to have different titles in different countries and then people
Mm.
get confused if
Yeah,
they
it gets a bit
two different
confusing
books.
sometimes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And you need to know is relatable to a lot of the characters as well, not just one of the characters, which is good. Yeah.
Yes, yeah,
Mm.
I think so. I think, and that's what I suddenly got excited about because I started kind of going through all the characters in my head and all the things that they need to know. You know, Mimi needs to know kind of what's going on with her daughter,
Mm.
and yeah, I've got to be
Mm.
careful not to start listing off what everybody needs to go and give things away. But yeah, obviously, there's the main thing that I can say without giving it away is that Jill's got this email with the subject line "You
Mm.
need to know,"
Yeah.
and it didn't exist in that exact way until we gave it that title. Actually, went back and
Oh,
put
and
in
change the aim. Okay.
yeah, to
Yeah.
it sort of suddenly fit with it, and I suddenly went,
Okay.
"Ooh, I think this will work really well, and will make this title really make sense." And so, yeah, the actual subject line of the email came after the title.
Okay, that's
Mm,
interesting. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And did you find you had a favorite character?
Yes, I'd probably probably Darren, I think.
Mm.
I like Darren. So Darren's one of the three brothers who, you know, in this extended family, there's three brothers with, there's two wives. Darren's the single brother, the matriarch of the family, the kids of, Mimi, and but yeah, Darren, the single brother, yeah, I just liked him. I liked
Mm.
writing him. I enjoyed it, and he struggles with his writing in a very similar way to me, as far as
Mm.
when he's getting stuck and getting writer's block.
Yeah,
A lot of that was how
you
I
could
feel
relate.
sometimes sitting down
Yeah,
at the computer. So yeah.
yeah. Kate's wondering if you read critic reviews and do they impact your future writing?
Yes, so definitely. I think so. I do read them. You know, I've had people say to me before, you know, when I have been upset in the past by, you know, a tough review, people have
Mm.
said to me, you know, just don't look, don't read them.
Mm.
I'm too curious to not look, so I want to read them, so I want to know, and I've gotten a lot better at how I react to them, and I actually find now a good well written review that is, you know, that is sometimes critical can actually be really good for me. Sometimes, you know, if it's just a really harsh, nasty review, that doesn't feel good.
Mm.
But yeah, a review where I can kind of look at it and go, oh yeah, I'll take that on board, I actually find can be good. And yeah, and I've gotten better at accepting that not all reviews can be good, and that it's okay for people to not like it, because you know you couldn't have everybody who reads your book love it, because it would be
Exactly.
a strange world
Yeah.
if everybody
Mm.
loved it. So yeah, so I've gotten better at accepting that. Definitely way back at the beginning with my first book, I was sobbing miserable when I read bad
Uh,
reviews, and
mm.
yeah, a lot better at it now than I used to
Mm.
be, and better
Yeah.
at taking it on
Mm.
board, like I said.
Mm.
Mm.
Belinda's wondering how you choose your characters' names.
Oh, quite a few of the characters this time round came from the cafe where I do like to go and write.
Okay.
So I think at the beginning of this book, it was pre-COVID, and I was still able to go out to a cafe. And there's one near my daughter's school that I love to go to, and I write right up until the bell rings, and it's really
Mm.
handy. Pete is the owner of the cafe, and Lisa works with him, and so those names ended up in this book. And I remember one day sitting in there at the start of this book and just saying to them, right, I need another guy's name, I need another guy's name, and them
Mm.
just kind of throwing out names at me, going, yep, sure. So often it just comes, yeah, simply from something like that. Trying to think if there's what other names are in here. Callie is the 16-year-old. I think that just came from me kind of going, that's a nice name. I like
Mm.
it. I'll put that
Mm.
in there. Yeah, so sometimes just from a name that I like the sound of, and I'll just put it in there and it feels right for the character. But yeah, sometimes also just demanding people around me help me. Just say,
Yeah.
give me a name.
Yeah. And I'm interested to know, did the cafe that you wrote on survive COVID, and have you been able to go back again?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah, they're a
that's good.
lovely cafe there, and
Mm,
I'm back there again now. Yeah, they survived throughout COVID, which I'm very happy about.
mm,
Yeah.
yeah, that's good then. Sharon's wondering if you read books of the same genre as you write.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So I actually try to write the kind of book that I would love to read.
Yep.
That's kind of what I aim for. So,
Mm,
yeah, I'll find at the moment I'll read sometimes not the same because I get sent books now to read for, either to quote on or if I'm doing say a panel with some other writers. So I'll get sent their books in order to, you know, be familiar with them. So I don't often lately get to choose my books, what I'm going to read,
mm,
but I usually love what I get sent anyway. And yeah, generally speaking, my favorite kind of books are in that same genre, which I do find sometimes hard to define as a genre because, I've seen this one, I've seen You Need to Know in the crime and thriller lists, and
yep.
sometimes I go, well, it's not quite
Mm,
crime, and I don't even know if you call it a full thriller either. It's more of a suspense
yeah.
drama, so, but it kind of seems to, I think, fall somewhere between, so.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the kind of book that I like to read is,
Yeah.
yeah. And I think that's, I discovered that when I first started writing, what felt natural was writing the kind of thing that I enjoy.
Mm. I think
Mm.
it would be a little bit strange writing something that in a genre that you didn't enjoy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't
I
like,
don't
I
think it would
wouldn't.
really
I
work,
love the
but
idea of writing fantasy, and I
mm,
do like reading some fantasy,
mm,
but I don't know it well enough to even
yeah,
know where I would start
yeah,
if I was to write something like that, for example. And I did
mm.
try once writing romance, and I don't think I was very good at it.
And is there anything that you might have read lately, even something that hasn't quite been published yet, that you'd like to recommend to us?
Uh, yes, I read The Serpent's Skin by Erin Redden, and also The Silent Listener by Lynn, and I don't know how to pronounce her surname, Yowart, I think.
Okay.
I don't know if I'm saying that right. Funnily enough, those two books, and so again, that was something I got sent because we were on a panel together, and funnily enough, they both have some similarities as they're set in on like rural Australia, farms in, there's a mixture between 1960s, 1980s, and so on, but both very different stories.
Mm,
And yeah, both quite compelling. And I probably put those more into the genre of like the literary side of crime, I think.
mm.
Yeah, so much more clever than mine, I think. I just remember reading that. I mean, that genuinely, like I was reading the writing and going, oh, wow, this is how real writers write. Like, just that beautiful language
I
and
think
so
you're
on.
being too
I
hard
felt
on
when I
you.
did the panel with the two of them, I was kind of going, I'm in awe of you too,
You're
because you
being
write
too hard on yourself,
beautifully.
I think. I think you've been too hard on yourself.
Oh, thank you. But I was in awe of the two of them just with the way that they were able to write. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's two books that I've read recently, and I'm right in the middle of Sally Hepworth, The Good Sister
Oh,
at the
yeah.
moment, and
I've read
enjoying
that.
that, of
That's a
course.
great one
Yeah,
as well. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
She's amazing. So.
Mm.
Mm.
Alison's wondering if you have any favourite authors.
Yes, Marion Keyes is a big
Mm.
favourite. I've always loved her. Leanne and Jacqueline Moriarty, funnily enough, quite big fans of theirs. Sally Hepworth, who I've mentioned. Who else have I always, what, every time I do one of these, an interview or a chat or something, I think I need to sit down with a list of all my favourite authors because I freeze up and I forget, and I know that
Mm.
afterwards I'll, look at my bookshelf and go, oh,
Oh,
why
I
didn't you say
forgot
that
to.
name and that name
Yeah.
and that name? So now I'm trying to think, which important people I'm missing. Um, I'm also a fan of Neil Gaiman. Love his stuff as well. Stardust is probably, my all-time favorite book. And I was Harry Potter fan as well. That's still, comfort reading for me, is going back and rereading
Mm,
all of Harry Potter. Uh, while we do other questions, if other names
if you
jump into my
think of
head, I'll
more,
jump back
yeah.
in and go, oh, here's another one. Or otherwise, I'll come back and look at the post and write a
And
list of
type
other
some
names.
that you know,
Yeah.
yeah. Sharon, this you did mention a little bit before, because the character in You Need to Know had a bit of writer's block, and
Mm.
Sharon's asking about whether you've had writer's block, and if you do, how you get over it.
Yeah, definitely. I've had stages, either right at the beginning of a book, or sometimes, usually towards the end, I go okay. Towards the end, at maybe 3/4 of the way through, once it's really building up, then I go okay. But sometimes either right at the beginning or maybe like a quarter or halfway through, I'll get stuck. Um, and sometimes it's just, I don't even know how I get there in the end. It just takes time. Sometimes it's a deadline forces me in the end. I suddenly go, I have no choice,
Mm,
I just have to get this done.
mm,
I have found it to be helpful sometimes to write something else if I'm really struggling, just to remind myself how to write again. Literally go, okay, sit down and write a blog post or a short story or something, just to take my mind away from the book, but remind myself that I love writing. Yeah, changing environment as well, kind of going, okay, go to a different cafe or go and sit outside
mm.
and write, all those kinds of things. But yeah, sometimes you can't do anything, and it just takes time to just sit and let the ideas kind of percolate. And quite, sometimes it'll be like there's a problem in the book that with the plot that I need to solve, that I can't solve, and it's left me stuck. So just being away from it and just letting it kind of run through my mind, eventually I'll come up with a solution, and then I'll be able to get back into it again. But
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
definitely, often I get that.
Mm. And what do you like to do when you're not writing?
I like to play soccer. I play for an over 30s women's soccer team. Not especially good at soccer, but I just like it. I just
Mm,
enjoy it. I kind of prefer, when it comes to trying to keep fit, I'm not much of a gym person, but playing soccer I really enjoy. And I've got a punching bag in the garage, and doing some boxing and things like that. I like binging Netflix,
mm,
reading, obviously, or what else? Hanging out with my kids.
mm.
Mm.
And Sharon said she can see guitars in your background. Do you play
Ah,
the
yes.
guitar?
I would love to be able to play the guitar, but they both belong to my husband.
Okay.
He's very good with the guitar, although he would correct me and say that he doesn't play them enough and he's not very good. But the fact that he can just pick it up and
Mm,
learn teach himself a song, I find that I'm in awe of that. I would love to be able to play a musical instrument, but I'm not musical. I like to sing along loudly to the radio, and my children like to tell me to stop doing that, please, because yeah, I'm not good.
mm.
Love music, love the idea of it, not good at it.
You'll leave it to someone else.
Yeah, yeah. Mm.
And are you working on something new at the moment?
Yes, yeah. So I'm on the next book, but I'm literally at the very beginning. I've got the main kind of concept, which I can sort of share, that it opens with a woman lying on a living room floor and thinking to herself that being dead is going to really suck. And she's lying there and she thinks to herself, well, I can't do anything about it, but in my last few minutes, what I can do is figure out who killed me. And she thinks to herself, okay, I'm going to start with a list. And
Okay.
yeah, and this character that is somebody who's put a lot of people offside. So she's got a decent list of who might have killed her, and I've got
Mm,
an idea of who the other characters are. in the book so far, but that's literally as far as I've gotten. I've got about half a chapter written, and that's it. And
Yeah,
this
okay.
idea of how
Yeah.
it begins, and that's it.
And so on average, how long is it usually taking you to write a book?
About, I'm going to say now, so the last few were kind of about a year for each book. This
Okay.
one took more, about maybe 18 months. And like I said, I slowed down a bit with COVID and everything, I think. And so, yeah, we'll see how long this next one takes. My publishers have kind of said tentatively they'll look at it coming out the year after next, unless I happen to fly through it. So we'll see whether, it's nice to, I was enjoying keeping up with one a year for a while with Fifth Letter, Those Other Women, the X, each came out one year after another, and I was kind of feeling like, okay, I've got a good schedule here. Although I know some writers who get 2 out a year, and I kind of look at them and go, how do you do that? Like Rachel Johns is amazing. She gets she's always seems to be kind of, I've just finished my next book and this one's just coming out and then the next one's coming out then, and I look at her and I go, how does she do that? And then her books are so big and thick as well, and I just think, how do you do that? And I would love to be able to get them out that fast, but I'm a bit slower, so yes.
Kelly's wondering, with deadlines, do you ever feel like you've submitted something that is not quite as good as if you hadn't have had to meet that deadline?
Yes, absolutely. But I think that might happen regardless of the deadline. I think even if I did then spend another year on it, I probably still would feel that way by the time I submit it. I think every book that I've submitted, I've gone through stages of 1 minute I will think to myself, oh, this book is great. I've done such a good job of it. I'm so happy. And then literally half an hour later, I'm going, what are you talking about? This book is absolute rubbish and it's the worst thing you've ever written. And there's always, it's so horrible, that stage after you've submitted it to your editor and you're waiting to hear back and crossing your fingers and thinking, oh, they're going to come back and say, this isn't, great. But usually what I do think, as far as rushing to a deadline, I kind of know that in draft 2 or draft 3, if there were things that I've thought, I rushed that, it's not as good as it could have been, or I didn't think of this idea and now I've got this idea and I should have included it, I kind of know that there's going to be drafts where I can make those changes and fix it up. So.
Yeah. Alison says, please fly through your next book. It sounds fabulous.
Thank you.
And
I will try.
she also said that she thinks Rachel drinks a lot of Diet Coke, so that's her secret.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, I'm on the champagne. It's my mother-in-law's birthday tonight, so we had dinner earlier, and
so we're interrupting your family.
No, not at all. No, it's just I made sure dinner was early so that I had the time for this, but I'm still on the champagne. But I don't think that helps you write faster. I think it
maybe not.
I think it probably helps me write slower.
Joe's wondering if you listen to audiobooks.
I haven't gotten into them yet, but it's one of those things that I keep meaning to get into because I like the idea of it. I like the idea of having a story told to me. The only thing I worry about is I know sometimes when I'm reading a book, I'll want to kind of flip back a couple of pages and go, oh, wait, was that, what just happened in that scene, or what was that character's name or something? And I kind of wonder when you're listening to an audio book, whether you'll miss things and it'll be hard to kind of zip back and check something. But I still do like the idea of it, and I keep thinking that I need to get into them.
Yeah. And are your books available on audiobook?
Yes.
Have you ever checked them out to see how they've read the character, like what they sound like?
Yeah. I've listened to just samples of them, and I do get to, with the last few books, I got to kind of choose who was going to do the audiobook, because then like the publishers usually send me maybe 3 names and with some examples of their voices, and I usually get to go back and go, yep, I like the sound of this person's voice. and then the samples that I've heard from the books for the last few books, I've really loved the people who did the audiobooks. Sorry, I think it's going to sneeze. No, it went away. No, it's coming back. No, it's gone away.
That's good. You get to have a choice though as well.
Yeah, it's
so
nice.
you can get the one that
'cause,
sounds
you know,
best for
it's
you.
very I don't realize until I got sent some options. I didn't realize how, you know, different, because you kind of think to yourself, oh, well, you know, just a nice voice reading the book, and then it's not until you listen you go, oh yeah, okay, this one suits my kind of writing, or you know, there's so much more to it.
Yeah. Could you let people know how they can keep in touch with you and what you're doing, and have you been doing any in-person events lately?
Yeah, have I done any in person? I do have an in person one coming up, or a couple coming up. I've got one coming up at Castle Hill Library, so that's sort of close to where I am, so in northwest Sydney. And then there'll also be one at Northern Beaches Library as well. And then there's obviously lots of online things and podcasts and things like that. But I've got Facebook page, which is just under Nicola Moriarty, where I'll make sure I put up those events. I'm on Instagram. I think as Instagram, I'm just under Nick Moriarty, just NIC. I'm on Twitter as well. Yes, I think that's, and I did have a official Goodreads profile, but I find I kind of am not, I found I had too many different things, so I'm not active on there anymore.
Too many things to keep up with.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what about people getting in touch with you when they've read your book? Do you find that you have a lot of readers do that?
Yeah, I'll often get messages through Facebook, or sometimes as well, actually, Instagram. I've had direct messages through Instagram and Facebook, people letting me know that they've read a book, and it's the loveliest thing when people let me know that they've enjoyed something. So it means a lot to me when people take the time to reach out and to say something. So it's lovely. So, and I try my best to keep up with messages and respond to everybody. And hopefully I haven't let too many slide. But yeah, it's really nice when people do that.
Yeah. And it's good for readers when they do reach out that they do get a reply. I know it's great to get a reply from somebody. All right. Thanks so much for joining us. It's been great chatting to you.
No problem. Sorry about the shaky start at the beginning where I forgot where to go.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you for having me again. It was really nice to be back, and I like the new format as well. Took the stress out of, trying to read the comments. So it's a good idea.
Yeah, no, that's good. Thanks. And thanks to everyone who asked questions.
Yes, thank you, everybody.
Thanks. Bye, everyone.
Bye.